All right, listen, I cannot tell you how many messages I get every single day from diehard MAGA fans on social media, essentially telling me to shut up about the Epstein story, be quiet about it, don't talk about it. They want the story to go away. So that's exactly why I'm back here again talking to you about the Epstein story. I think a very important part of this conversation is not only exposing Donald Trump for the liar and the hypocrite that he is, and of course, for his strange connections to Epstein, but also hearing from the victims themselves. Annie Farmer, who is one of two sisters who was assaulted by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, went on CNN last night for an exclusive interview to talk about everything that's happened, and she dropped some bombshell information, such as the fact that she's reached out to Trump's Department of Justice. You won't believe their response. It's pretty typical for them. She also slammed Donald Trump for giving Ghislaine Maxwell perks, giving her an interview with the Department of Justice when she certainly doesn't deserve one, and she's a known perjurer. So I want to dive into some of these clips with you right now, and let's just not waste any more time. She was asked about Donald Trump's comments, where he essentially called the Epstein story a hoax. He said it was BS and it was made up by the Democrats. And I think her response is really important to hear before we get in to the information she revealed in this interview. Take a look.
Annie, I mean, one comment that we heard from the president yesterday was, this is being pushed by the Democrats, that it's a hoax, that it's BS. As someone who lived it and experienced it, and as a survivor, I wonder what you make of that.
It's offensive. This is not a hoax. There have been so many people that have come forward and shared their stories. I hate that it has been politicized the way it has, because I think we lose sight of the bigger picture in that. And I think this is really about people using their power to harm others, and that is not a political issue. I think people on both sides care about the safety of children, and I really hope that that Trump understands that a message is being sent beyond just the individuals involved in this case, to the wider community about how about the seriousness of these types of crimes.
Yeah, 100%. It is really gross, and she hit this point really well. It's really gross how politicized this topic has become. Like, through all the videos I've made about this, the conversations we've been having, we're not talking about this from the perspective of being a Democrat. Like, this actually has nothing to do with our political beliefs. It has everything to do with the President of the United States breaking his promise to release these files to protect him and his buddies. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, if you're on the list, if you were involved in a way that was wrong, where you did something bad, I don't care who you are, you should be held accountable. Whereas Donald Trump right now is taking a different perspective. He's saying, because I'm me, and because my buddies like me and they support me, then I think we should protect them. And, I just don't want to release the files to hurt anybody. And he's blaming it on the Democrats, saying that Obama and Biden created the files somehow, and they managed to do that completely secretly without anybody knowing, and without Obama actually being in office during this time. It is so insane, and it is really gross how he's politicized it. It just makes other victims of Epstein less likely to come forward. We want transparency, we want justice in this case, and every single thing that Donald Trump has done so far has made that goal harder to obtain. Now let's get into the next clip, where she talks about how she wrote a letter to Trump's Department of Justice talking about who she is, her experiences, and listen to their response. Have a look.
Yeah, well, and when you ask those questions, does anyone answer? What kind of response do you get?
So far, there hasn't been a lot of official response, to our queries. Even in this, I reached out to the prosecutors who, who got the guilty verdict for Maxwell, saying, what's going on? And they knew so little because they have not been involved in this process. So I wrote a letter to Deputy Attorney General Blanche saying, these are my concerns about what's happening, and there has not been a response. So, I know, speaking with other survivors in this case, that even though so many politicians are talking about this, I don't think anyone has actually been contacted
So
by
you reached
anyone.
out to the Deputy Attorney General, and you haven't heard back?
Yes.
Wow.
And I think Caitlin Collins' reaction tells you everything. Wow. I mean, The Trump administration right now is having these secret meetings behind closed doors to talk Epstein strategy, essentially how to cover their ass. How do they do that? How do they clamp down on this PR nightmare that it's been for the past couple of weeks? And through all of these different conversations, through all the conversations they're having publicly and privately, they haven't once involved the people who have actually been affected by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, the victims. They haven't reached out to them for their input. They haven't involved them in the process of talking to Ghislaine Maxwell, as Todd Blanche did from Trump's Department of Justice. None of it. They are leaving them in the dark, all to protect Donald Trump, because they know if they actually involve people who were part of this situation, victims in this situation, they would take a totally different approach. They would take an approach that demands accountability, transparency, whereas Donald Trump is taking an approach that has secrecy, closed door meetings, no conversations in the public, these backdoor deals that Trump seems to be making with Ghislaine Maxwell, where she's now at a low-level security prison doing yoga. I'm not joking. They teach yoga classes at her new low-level security prison camp in Texas. It's insane how Donald Trump has shut these women out and left them out to dry and continues to do that. She wrote a letter. Just respond to her. Respond to the victims. Bring them into the fold. Let them know what's going on. Trump and his DOJ is doing the exact opposite. Now, she also talked about Trump and what he's doing with Ghislaine Maxwell, these interviews that he's conducting, and as I mentioned, these kind of weird backdoor deals that seem to be taking place. And I want you to hear her perspective as well. Take a look.
Feels like that campaign is not working. People recognize that she's a predator, not a victim. And I think that any additional lessening or of sentence or negotiation will really be met with a lot of outrage and seen as a sign of some guilt.
If the president's not ruling it out, a pardon, and he just emphasizes that he has the ability to do so, I wonder what you would want to say to him about even considering that.
Yeah, I just would want him to know it would be devastating for the victims of Epstein and Maxwell. I mean, this was the one person who was held accountable for these crimes, and she was held accountable for her crimes, not for someone else's, but for the ones that she committed. And I think there's many other ways for him to move forward with this that would actually be indicative of him not being involved. That would not involve her, right? Releasing more information as people are clamoring for. I think anything that involves her participation would be seen as a sign of guilt.
Totally. I love that point at the end there. I think anything that involves her participation would be seen as a sign of guilt. Let's just be clear. What Donald Trump is doing by bringing Ghislaine Maxwell into the fold just screams guilt. The fact that she was randomly moved to this low-level security camp, the fact that she got an interview with the DOJ where magically the child predator said she saw Trump do nothing wrong over all the years that he knew him. It screams guilt to me. It screams guilt to you. It screams guilt to the victims. And yet Donald Trump and the DOJ continue on this path. And I like what she said, that a pardon or a commutation of sentence, clemency, whatever Trump would grant to Ghislaine Maxwell would be devastating. Not only devastating for the rule of law, but of course the victims themselves, who are the ones who've actually been affected. Not Donald Trump. Donald Trump's the guy who was best friends with Epstein, hung out with them, they partied together, but the victims would be affected. So I just wanted to hear, I wanted you to hear from Annie Farmer, and I will continue to talk about victims and their experiences with Epstein and how Donald Trump is just basically giving them the middle finger right now, but I'll leave the video there. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes an incredibly long way. Drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about this story. And as I always say, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.